Welcome back to the King's Corner, the place for all things Bethesda. I am the King Fan Man, and today I have a very special Bethesda news update. In the March issue of Game Informer magazine, they celebrated their 300th issue and 26 years of covering video games with a definitive list of the top 300 video games of all time. Gaming legends like Pac-Man, Mario, and Zelda. And Bethesda games made a pretty good showing, with several games making this list and a few ranked fairly high. Now, I should say that any list trying to rank games like a top 10 list or this list of 300 greatest games of all time are all based on opinion and could be argued. Everyone's taste and play styles are different, so everyone's favorite list of games would be a little different. With that said, it should be noted that this list was compiled by the many staff members and the editors of Game Informer magazine, who many have worked in the gaming industry for up to 30 years or more. So it is a very respected opinion, to say the least. Now, Game Informer did begin their list by saying, and I quote, "You may and probably will disagree, but we hope you enjoy." They went on to say, debate it with your friends and write us and tell us your picks. Well, I will say something similar. Be sure and comment what you think they got right and what you think they got wrong. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go through the whole list of 300 games, so I will stick to the Bethesda games on the list, since that's what we're most interested in on this channel. Again, if you want to see the whole list, check out the special 300th March issue of Game Informer magazine. Okay, let's jump right in. The first Bethesda game shows up at number 171, The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Game Informer writes, "The door to the prison dungeon opened, revealing a world to be explored in every direction. Oblivion's polish and accessibility brought the masses to the RPG scene." Well, in that, they are certainly right. Bethesda Game Studios is the developer that brought RPGs from the smaller computer audiences to now one of the most popular genres on the market today. Now, the next one on the list, most of you will probably disagree with. Not that it's on the list, just the position that it's on the list. Coming in at number 155 is Fallout New Vegas. It should be much higher, by the way. Game Informer writes, "New Vegas was filled with fantastic characters, branching paths, and flexible upgrade systems that convince players to journey through the Mojave Wasteland repeatedly." Then why didn't you put it higher on your list? Coming in at number 122 is id Software's Wolfenstein 3D. Game Informer writes, "Doom brought the first-person shooter screaming into the mainstream, but Wolfenstein and the antics of Nazi-killing hero BJ Blazkowicz is where the genre was born." And again, they are so right. Wolfenstein 3D was the first true FPS, and the game all others tried to copy. Showing up at number 95 on the list is id Software's Doom 2. Game Informer writes, "Doom delighted the masses with its bloody adventure, but Doom 2 united those masses with its network code and laid the groundwork for online competitive gaming." And boy, did I love Doom 2. Coming in at number 84 on the list is The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind, and the game that most people consider as the birth of the modern RPG. Game Informer writes, "Later entries may have smoothed out its rough edges, but many argue that Morrowind was The Elder Scrolls at its most pure. Vardenfell was a wonderful place to explore, with mushrooms and giant bugs that stretched far into the skies, and a host of threats much closer to the ground. It invited exploration, rewarding those who were clever or strong enough to venture deep into the wilds, while pushing players whose ambitions outclassed their abilities. Before the days of aggressive level scaling, Morrowind delivered a sensation that you were on the verge of being someplace you didn't belong, a sensation reinforced by its storyline. Yes, you were an outlander, but after spending several dozen hours wandering its ashlands, caves, and forests, it understandably started to feel a lot like home." Wait a minute, a dozen hours? I've got thousands of hours. Did I do something wrong? Number 81 on the list is the original Fallout. Now, even though this game was developed by Interplay and not Bethesda, since Bethesda now owns Fallout and is the one that brought Fallout into the mainstream, I felt it was appropriate to include in this video. Game Informer writes, Interplay's post-apocalyptic, retro-futuristic RPG forged a franchise that is still going strong today, thanks to its humor, style, and innovative character development. Moving right along, number 42 on the list is Fallout 3. Now, just in case you forgot, Fallout 3 scored higher than Fallout New Vegas on this list. In fact, it scored way higher, 113 places higher. That's kind of funny for all the Fallout New Vegas lovers out there. Well, Game Informer writes, Bethesda brought its post-apocalyptic series into the modern era with a surprisingly alive, open world overflowing with fun, activities, and interesting quests. And again, it's 113 places above Fallout New Vegas. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Fallout New Vegas. I just find that hilarious for some reason. Coming in at lucky number 13 is the classic game Doom, and it should be much higher, by the way. Game Informer writes a book on this one, so bear with me as I read. Other first-person shooters existed before Doom, but id Software created a BFG-sized crater, that's clever, in the gaming landscape when it launched this seminal title in 1993. Doom made our jaws drop when we first saw its groundbreaking 3D graphics. Moments like ripping through a zombieman with a chainsaw or eviscerating a cacodemon with a well-placed shotgun blast made it the de facto topic of conversation amongst gamers. And many of us even snuck Doom onto our school's computers just to get our competitive multiplayer fix when the lab teacher wasn't looking. The list of ways Doom changed the gaming industry forever is impressive. It created a new 3D future for game developers, and it set the standard for developers embracing modding communities to this day. And it also introduced the term deathmatch into the gaming lexicon, thanks to its network play. Doom also used a shareware platform that allowed interested gamers to try before they buy, a practice that largely disappeared before returning with a bang as games entered into the digital era. Rumor has it that by 1995, more computers in the world had Doom installed on them than the latest version of Windows. Thanks to its massive success, Doom made id Software a household name and turned programmer John Carmack into a game development royalty. Its legacy in the first-person genre and video games as a whole cannot be overstated. You can see traces of its design in every shooter to this day, 25 years later. The franchise today is still going strong thanks to id's amazing recent reboot and Bethesda's publishing. The last Bethesda game on the list comes in at number 9, and it is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and it should be number 1 on the list, by the way. But I do have to point out that number 10 on this list is The Witcher 3. So Skyrim beat The Witcher 3. That's more funny than the Fallout New Vegas thing. So let me repeat it again for all those that didn't hear. Skyrim beats The Witcher 3. Game Informer writes, another book, so bear with me, 7 years later, and no open-world role-playing game has the popularity, including Witcher 3, impact, and continued enthusiasm garnered by this most recent mainline Elder Scrolls game. Skyrim took the tenets that made its predecessor so exciting and evolved them into a formula that resonated with players and kept them engaged for years. Flying and fire-breathing dragons, breathtaking natural environments, a rich and nuanced character progression system, and hundreds of hours of quests. Wait a minute, I've got thousands of hours again. I must be doing something wrong. And exploration all came together into a riveting fantasy that was hard to leave behind. The allusions to Norse mythology and Northern European culture gave added life to a universe already brimming with fascinating races, magic, and godlike Daedric princes. Thoughtfully crafted dragons, forests, and cities made this believable open world that was a delight to explore, whether Matching blades, casting spells, or shouting magical commands, combat made you feel like the dragonborn warrior you were meant to be. But it wasn't just the broad strokes and core mechanics that helped set the game apart. In details like a created ancient language, seemingly endless stacks of books and lore, and countless spoken dialogue characters, this was a place and time that felt authentic and filled with the depth of history. At launch, Skyrim redefined our expectations and set a new high bar for open-world fantasy adventures. In the years that followed, excellent official expansions and re-releases joined forces with an army of dedicated modders to keep breathing new life into the game long after the initial release. And it should be number one. Well, that'll do it. And if you were counting, that's 9 Bethesda games making the list of the 300 greatest games of all time. That's not too shabby at all for the small studios and a small publisher, especially compared to some in the industry. If you are interested in the games making the top of this list, at number 4 was Grand Theft Auto 5, number 3 was Tetris, number 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and the number 1 game, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. So what do you guys think? Leave me a comment how you feel about Game Informer's 300 best games of all time. Hey, thanks for stopping by the King's Corner today. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Do it now! I am the King Fan Man, and I'll see you next time.